Hello and welcome to A Bettor Morning, presented by Rival Fantasy. I'm Heather Klein. Rival Fantasy is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Let's welcome today's panel. Host of Her Story in the Making, Britt's Fantasy Blitz, and co-host of Lightning Round, Britt Flynn. Award-winning host, the fantasy exec, Corey Parson. And fantasy alarm lead NFL analyst and host of Fantasy Fiasco, Andrew Coop Cooper. Welcome, everyone.
Why am I always last on these? Everyone else gets the big screen with me.
I didn't get the big screen today. Just Brittany got. Just Britt got the big
You got it the other day, though.
Here we go again.
You got it the other day. I've been keeping a little tally.
We got to keep tabs because
I've been keeping a little tally over here, and I did a big goose egg next to Coop's big screen time.
No favoritism on this show.
You know what? I will fully defer to you guys for the big screen.
I'll tell you. You know what it's got to be, Corey? It's the lipstick.
That's what it is.
You and me lipstick on Monday.
No, I'm not.
Fight for that
I'm not doing that.
Fight for that big screen.
Mental note: Coop gets big screen on Monday.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's get to it, guys. For those that saw the second episode of the Jets' Hard Knocks, the Carolina Panthers left much to be desired on the field. They were a mess. 5 sacks and 8 QB hits were a problem for the O-line, and rookie QB Bryce Young got punished. How concerned are you with the Panthers' offensive line and the impact it will have on Bryce Young's fantasy value in rookie season? Coop, you're up first.
Yeah, first off, shout out to the chat, Toronto Dave, shout out Toronto area. This is a nightmare situation for this team, considering everybody has been saying the big problem for this guy is his size, right? So you can't have him lying on his back in these games. And I'll say this, when you look at the fantasy implications, guys that had horrible offensive lines like Ben Roethlisberger, or guys that were too old and didn't want to get hit like Drew Brees or Tom Brady, the time to release goes way down, and the targets end up going to the low A-dot players. So if this holds, guys like DJ Chark and Adam Thielen could be in trouble, and guys like Hayden Hurst and my boy Miles Sanders could be in for a lot of targets. So it wouldn't actually be the end of the world for fantasy football for me, considering who I'm going after. But it could be difficult for this team to push the ball downfield with a shorter quarterback and no time to throw.
I've been saying since Young got drafted that I don't doubt his talent, but I doubt his durability and his fantasy value if he's not protected by a good line. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's not going to take a lot of hits from a 300-pound lineman or big edge rusher to seriously hurt him. We saw that last season when Drew Sanders hit him and he sprained his shoulder. I think Miles Sanders will help when he comes back from that groin injury in pass protection, but it's really not like Young has a lot of elite weapons either. So I've been trying to stay away from him throughout this offseason. I'm very tempted to take the under on wins, and legitimately, I'm concerned that Young gets injured and isn't able to finish out the year. They've got a lot of work to do to protect the new face of their franchise.
Yeah, I look at it. There's a couple of things that I look at right here. My level of concern about this is on a scale of 1 to 10, probably around a 4. I think Carolina will be good up front. I think the talent is there. They draft in the first round every year, but I don't know about Frank Wright. My level of concern on him is getting to be about that 5-6 range. Maybe Nick Saban has to give him a call and say, fix that offensive line so the best quarterback in this draft can go ahead and get the job done. I think Coop was right. A lot of people talking about Hayden Hurst and Miles Sanders. I think both of them have big years this year as far as catching the football. But let's not overreact to this, right? You do know that they were practicing against the New York Jets defensive line. The strength of the New York Jets is their defensive line. The reason why Aaron Rodgers is here is because the New York Jets defensive line. Quentin Williams, who we talked about yesterday, is a player who can win the Defensive Player of the Year award. He's an all-pro type guy. That rookie edge rusher they brought in, he looks like he can't be blocked. So let's pump the brakes a little bit and after 1 week of practice. And the game, when he got hurt by Drew Sanders, he came back and won that game.
Yeah, I'll say this. As far as the size goes, a lot of people are worried about it. I fall into Corey's group on this, where I'm not worried about the size. I think he is the best quarterback in this draft. We had the scout Brandon Huffman on, legendary scout, to talk about tight ends, and he was basically talking about the line that gets drawn before you look at anything else between guys who have it and who don't. Like there's something, the ability to just play football in general, and he out of his way brought up two players, Bryce Young and Josh Downs, as guys where he says, I don't care about the size, I don't care about anything else. These guys are ballers, they're dogs. So and if that guy's saying that, then I'm on board, man, because he's been talking to all these guys since they were like 17, 18 years old.
But going back to the defensive line, it's not just the Jets that they played that has a great offensive line or defensive line, especially when you look at their schedule in the season. The Buccaneers defensive line has apparently been laying it on teams in joint practices. They've got to play the Cowboys. The Falcons defense has actually looked pretty improved. I mean, there are a lot of tougher teams on the schedule, and any one of those teams could potentially injure him if that offensive line doesn't get it together.
I can understand that, but look, they steel sharpen steel. The Panthers defensive line is legit too. With D Brown, who's stepping up into himself. Brian Burns is one of the top players in the NFL, so they got their work cut out for them. But Frank Wright, don't make me have to come up there. Seriously, you want me looking crazy?
And I will say this: when you watch these Hard Knocks episodes as a fan, and draft day comes around, and you want your team to take that wide receiver, and they take a lineman, just remember that this is what happens when you go out and get 3 wide receivers and a tight end and a running back instead of bulking up the line like this team did. The Cowboys are the perfect example. Everybody wanted them to take Johnny Football, and they took Zach Martin. Look how that's panned out.
Zach Martin's going to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, man, watching that Johnny Manziel documentary, I looked over at Sellers and I go, man, I'm so glad we got Zach Martin there.
For real.
We've mentioned the name Jordan Love a few times on this show. We can't quite say the Packers are rebuilding, but it's definitely a transitional year with the changing of the guard in Green Bay. Do you feel Jordan Love is the future for the green and gold, or will they need to look for another QB after this 2023 season? Britt, you're up first.
I really don't think that Jordan Love is the future, but at this point, what choice do the Packers have? The only thing to do at this point is to get Jordan Love reps and just see what he can do. I will say in the 3 joint practices that he's had this week, he only went 48 of 91 for 532 yards, 7 touchdowns, but he also had 3 interceptions. The touchdowns were great, but the completion percentage was really concerning. And I think that sets him up for a very up and down year. If he gets a little wild with the ball, I can definitely see Green Bay transitioning and leaning heavily on that run game. But honestly, that's kind of been Love's MO throughout his career. He had a 20-17 touchdown to interception ratio in his final year at Utah State. And that ball security has always been a big concern. If he creates a lot of turnovers, then yeah, I think that they might look somewhere else. But I don't think that will be until 2025.
Yeah, Jordan Love is QB1. He's going to be QB1 and the franchise quarterback of the Green Bay Packers for years to come. Now, everything that you read can be interpreted in a different way. Like, I've read reports on Jordan Love talking about how impressive he has been in the joint practices. So this is a dude, when he came in last year, he didn't spit the bit at all. You know what I'm saying? He came in, he held it down, he played well. He has limited experience, but somebody like that coming up behind Aaron Rodgers for all of those years, I think he's fully confident, full control of the offense, and I stand by it. When week 1 is over and we get ready to head to the first waiver wire run of the year, one of the most popular guys is going to be Jordan Love. I think he's in for a big season, and I think the Packers are fine. The Vikings will be looking for a quarterback at the end of this year. The Cardinals will be looking for a quarterback at the end of this year. The Falcons will be looking for a quarterback at the end of this year. But it will not. The Tennessee Titans will as well. But a team that won't be looking for a quarterback, or the Denver Broncos will as well, won't be the Green Bay Packers. QB1 to be there, and he'll be there as the franchise guy for a couple years.
So I can't definitively say one way or another, which is crazy that so many people are. I understand the optimism on one side, but the negativity on the other side makes no sense to me, especially coming from the fans of this team, where Look at the quarterbacks they had before and the situations coming in. Nobody believed in Brett Favre. He was traded from the Falcons. Nobody believed in Aaron Rodgers. He had to wait behind Brett Favre forever to get his start. And then now we have the same situation happening right now where Jordan Love had to wait behind Aaron Rodgers. But, I mean, he's been with the team. He knows what they want to do. He knows the plays, and we haven't seen it yet. So we at very least need to give this guy a chance. The negativity around stuff like this, it bothers me, man.
But are we saying that Jordan Love is Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or any of that? Like, that's where my concern comes in.
Nobody was saying that Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers were going to be who they were. There was like a little behind the scenes of like, oh, we think this guy Patrick Mahomes making some plays in practice. We like that, but nobody said he was going to throw 50 touchdowns. He was coming off the board at like QB 17 that year.
So yeah, I just look at. I think he's going to be fine. Put it like this, like it's like kind of like the Trey Lance thing, right? Where everybody's like, oh, well, Trey Lance has had some bad luck. He only played in one game last year and one game the year before, and he got hurt. They practice, right? The executives and the coaches and stuff, they watch the practice. They take the film back and they watch it, and they say, this guy sucks. With Jordan Love, they put the tape on him like, this guy's good. Let's go with him. You let Aaron Rodgers walk because you know that you're ready with what's coming up behind him. And guess what? He's not going to quit on them on 3rd and 4 and not run the football for a first down to send them to the Super Bowl. He won't do that. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me with drops. People talk about drops on Sunday, and they're like, this guy needs to be benched. This guy stinks. They don't realize that this guy has already proven that he can catch the football by catching 1,000 passes in practice, like Corey says. The guys that actually can't catch the football don't make the field on Sunday. The guys that actually can't play quarterback at all, you don't even see them. Kellen Mond getting moved on from by the Vikings before he even played any snaps. Those are the guys that, just flat out can't play or have attitude issues or whatever. If they're saying Jordan Love is a guy, Jordan Love is a guy. How could we possibly refute that if we're not in those locker rooms, we're not in those meetings, we're not around?
Listen, go ahead, Britt.
I'll just say that Marcus Mariota played last season, and we saw him play last night, and he stinks. He stunk the entire time, and yet we still continue to see him on the field. So I don't know if that logic exactly applies all the way around the board.
The logic that applies to Marcus Mariota is called the sunk cost fallacy, and that's what happens when a guy goes 2 overall.
Yeah, and Jameis Winston should be playing. But here's the thing, right? So when they, the controversies around Trey Lance this week, taking a beat, and finally, I've been telling people for 3 years this guy couldn't play, right? So then they asked Shanahan about the comments, right? You know what Shanahan said? That's part of the game. He didn't say, hey, my guy Trey Lance is going to step up and show them this year. He basically seconded what they were saying by saying, hey, guess what? He got to handle it because he know the player can't play. That pick was supposed to be Mac Jones. I will take that to my lying spot.
They can have him.
You giving up on Mac already?
Give us Brock Purdy, Tom Brady too.
October.
Brocktober.
Everybody, Coop, let me tell you something. Everybody's talking about the Patriots ain't gonna win 7 games this year. I will put my house at the Patriots win 8 games this year.
I'm in. That's the thing. Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick, they got this thing on autopilot for 7 games.
Yep.
All right, we're here to get you ready for your fantasy football draft. Start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. We continue our fantasy football draft strategy. What advice would you give about drafting in terms of preparation? Corey, what are your thoughts?
Oh, listen, like my main thing that I always tell people is you can't predict the draft. So you can't if you can't predict the draft, it makes it very difficult to plan the draft. But I will talk about a specific player. You know what I'm saying? Just doing some homework and looking at some numbers. And I already took Dalvin Cook in the draft. The way the Jets have his contract situated, it looks like Dalvin Cook is staring down the possible barrel of a suspension coming up this year. There's a couple of reports out. Listen, these things go sideways all the time. People lie all the time. You know what I'm saying? Particularly on professional athletes. But there's a couple of reports out about a domestic violence lawsuit where I believe they say that somebody was paid some hush money. but it didn't stay hush. If it's out now, you know what I'm saying? So that's something that you're going to have to worry about. Be very careful drafting Dalvin Cook. Investigate that situation a little bit, because he was kind of paid us a lot of incentives in his deal, and a lot of them are around him being on the field this season. So that's something to keep an eye on when you have your draft, or this Dalvin Cook situation.
Here's my advice for everybody out there. Read. And no, Corey Parson, I don't mean 280 characters at a time on Twitter. No. I'm talking about articles. I'm talking about strategy guides. Go out and read what the beat writers are actually saying. Go out and get the Fantasy Alarm draft guide. Read Kevin Tompkins' Zero RB article, Britt Flynn's Anchor RB article. Know every strategy out there in the book so that you can be like water. Like Corey said, we don't know what's coming in this draft. So know how yin and yang tight end works, late round quarterback. Know all the targets for every strategy so you can take value early and then pick guys up later, because you already know the targets for those strategies. Guys like James Robinson in his breakout year, that didn't happen by accident. If you were paying attention to the beat writers, you saw the writing on the wall with Leonard Fournette, you were already ahead of the game. Read, read, read.
Yeah, and I'll go one step further. Obviously, you need to read, know all these strategies, but don't get locked into one specific strategy. Be fluid. Don't have your heart set on a specific player unless you are planning to reach for them in ADP, because if you're waiting for them to just come around back to you, likelihood is that they're not, and then you're going to tilt and your entire draft process is just going to go out the window. Be flexible, have a plan, have several different builds and strategies to go into your draft with, and just look at the way that the board is falling and then choose the best one in that moment. I will also say do a ton of mock drafts. See where these players are going, pick from different spots, see what fits your build and your preferred strategy the best, and then go from there.
Read as many conspiracy theories on Dalvin Cook as you can find.
I'll send you the article, Coop. Listen, as people right here, the three of us that work in the fantasy sports industry, is there anything worse than putting together a mock draft and then having to write about it?
Oh my God, dude. And it's always at night. It's like, yeah, at the end, and they're like, yeah, send me 2 to 3 paragraphs.
Like, what? I wouldn't have did this if I knew you was going to ask me to. Oh, you're going to pay me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You should have waited. You should have waited for John and Pemba to be on the show.
So, fantasy analysts, you're new to the game. If somebody asks you to do a mock draft with them, ask them if they need you to write something first. What do you think, Britt?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I'm always a writer. I'm more of a writer than I am a podcaster or talker. So writing doesn't really bother me. But yeah, I do agree. Sometimes I'm like, well, I took this player because he was good. I took this player because he was good too. You know, there's not a lot of analysis that can go into a mock draft, but that's why there's only 2 or 3 sentences. So it's not that bad.
Writing doesn't bother me. Working for free does.
There you go. Yeah.
I
had to do one last night at 8:00. It was for the homie, though. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, but you know, at 8:00, the fantasy exec is putting his feet up at 8:00. If you know what I mean. That's when I be chilling.
Yeah. How'd it go? Who'd you get?
I don't even remember. To be honest,
that's the thing with mock drafts.
Read about it.
Don't remember.
Send me the
I'll send
link.
you the article.
All right, let's move on to Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy is the all-in-one fantasy sports platform. Play challenges, fantasy bingo, fantasy book, and season-long fantasy football. New users who sign up at Rival Fantasy get up to a $200 deposit match and a complimentary first play voucher. Go to joinrival.com/alarm. Today, we are going to show you how to play the challenges game, where 2 players go head-to-head, and you choose which guy will score more fantasy points. Britt, let's show them how it's done.
Yeah, let's get my screen up here.
First of all, that logo is pretty sick. I didn't realize. What is that?
So thing? Nice, right?
That thing's wild, huh?
Yeah, they do a great job. Look at that.
Look at that.
Head-to-head challenge.
Fired up, dude. That's me crushing Corey with a headbutt.
All right, perfect. So the name of this game is to take 2 players, you compare them, and then you pick the one who you think is going to score more points. they're automatically generated, so you can't really pick and choose. But this one I kind of like right off the bat. So you've got Jamison Tyon, starting pitcher of the Cubs, going against the Royals. You can click this info button here. It will show you his projected fantasy points, which is 17.52. Then up here, you can see his fantasy points per game, which is only 10.6, which is a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a difference there. But he is going against the Royals, so I can see that a little bit. With JP France, you can click on his info. He's averaging 16.18 points per game, but he's only projected 16.42. However, going against the Mariners, France has been so lights out this season. I think I'm going to select him. You click on the player that you want. You select the amount. We're going to place a $5 bet here. Click place your bet, and then you're good. And if you want to keep on going, say that you don't like this matchup. So Tyon and Gonsolin, not really a fan of that. Just click skip challenge, and then it keeps on generating players until you find a matchup you want. Super easy, gives it to you. You don't have to do any additional research because with Ohtani right here, it gives you the baseline of projected points. And then on this green line, it gives you how much he actually scored. So you can see how many times throughout this past week or so when he's hit and when he hasn't. So it's a pretty nifty tool. It shows you pretty much everything that you need. Super easy to play, and you can cash in on some money right there.
You don't got to do research because you just pick Ohtani, right?
Oh, Ohtani all day, every day.
I watched a bit of that game the other day. He was not only was hitting home runs, he was beating out infield ground balls. He's scooting around.
He's crazy. He might even be better than I don't know, Babe Ruth.
You know Babe Ruth didn't exist. That's a myth. Right, Corey?
Shout out to my man Toronto Dave. And Babe Ruth is a fictional character.
But yeah.
Usually I go through and I just pick whatever dude looks less goofy in their profile picture on there.
They do make them profile pictures kind of crazy, don't they?
Yeah. JP France, man. What is that? What is he going for there with the mustache glasses combo, dude?
He's going for solid because he's been solid. He's no nonsense. You can't be that good and have any riz. You know, there's a trade-off.
You can't bet against our boy Tyon, though. He came on the show, drafted a little fantasy football draft with us, Britt.
Oh, he did? That's cool.
He did.
Yeah, he came on, dude. He knew his stuff too, man. He was pretty good. He knew his stuff about football, and he knew his stuff about coffee. I didn't realize that guy was so deep in the coffee game. Coffee, bourbon, and fantasy football is what that guy goes for, dude. That's my kind of guy.
Shout out to my man, the King, Scott Engel, Roto Experts at the Park. Let everybody know how much baseball players love fantasy football.
That's right, dude. The King. I hung out with the King like all weekend, man.
Did he do karaoke on Sunday night?
Oh yeah.
Sure enough.
He did karaoke, and he was hitting the air guitar for everybody else. Yeah. He was rocking, baby. He brought the house down. Yeah. Herms is in his bourbon era too. Yep. Shout out to the chat this morning.
Did someone say bourbon?
A little early though, Herms. A little early.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right, Coop?
You know, if I'm in a tornado warning, I'm going down with a glass of bourbon. I don't know what time
it is anywhere. Yeah.
I was going to say that, Coop. I'm like, does it matter? I mean, you're up all the time.
Yeah.
All right. That was today's edition of A Bettor Morning. Thank you to Corey, Britt, and Coop. Make sure you check out Fantasy Fiasco with Coop at 1 p.m. Eastern and Britt's Fantasy Blitz at 2. And if you missed any of our shows, you can find them all on our YouTube channel and at bettorsports.com. We wish everyone a better